What does it mean to live in a world where every moment of your day is a monetizable touch point? I've been reflecting on this question a ton these days, both as a new YouTuber, but also as an advertising tech industry girl who recently moved to New York City. I've been engaging with the startup scene here to learn what are people building, what cool businesses are out there. As much as I don't use social media myself, I am fascinated by tech and always am trying to deepen my knowledge in it. It's definitely kind of a funky contradiction. I'm a woman of many contradictions. I don't spend my time on social media, however, I am a little bit of a techie, I must admit. But some of these startups, including one that I spent the last month working on, really have me questioning the ethics of some of the way these businesses are being built. And I just had to share it with you guys because I find it so interesting, the lack of transparency behind some of the ways that people are building in the tech industry and how they want to capitalize on things as basic as human attention. To me, it feels like we're heading towards a future that kind of looks like Blade Runner 2049 for a little like sci-fi deep cut for you, but I'm picturing those dystopian futuristic scenes where there are holographic billboards everywhere and you just can't escape that constant advertising. But before I tell you about all these startup experiences, I wanted to lay the groundwork of what the attention economy even is. And I should also mention, my name is Cassidy. On this channel, I talk about topics in media and culture and tech and intentional living. So if you enjoyed this, definitely check out my other content while you're here. So if you're unfamiliar with the concept, the attention economy is essentially a system where human attention is treated as a commodity that can be bought or sold or traded. The term was coined by psychologist and economist Herbert Simon, who recognized that as information becomes abundant, attention becomes more scarce. So when you think of the dawn of the digital age and internet just being adopted by everyone, like you can see how this started to take off. In the most basic terms, your attention has literal monetary value to brands and companies. Every second that you spend looking at a screen or even off of a screen has the potential to drive profit for someone who capitalizes on that attention. And this isn't new. Traditional advertising has always competed for our attention, but the digital system, the digital economy has definitely supercharged it and just given that much more possibility for touch points throughout the day because we are, let's be honest, we are always plugged in between listening to podcasts on the way into work, to browsing while you're at work, to getting home, turning on the TV or turning on your fireplace, you know, whatever you choose to turn on at night. And then at the end of the night, scrolling before bed. There are moments throughout all of this for people to capitalize and profit from your attention. And if you think about, I've talked about this at length in other videos, but if you think about the business models of all the major companies, if you think about Meta, if you think about TikTok, if you think about our gracious host right now, YouTube, their business model isn't really social media or entertainment. At the end of the day, it is a little bit of being an attention broker. Their primary product is us and our eyeballs, which they then sell to advertisers. You can watch my old videos if you want like a more comprehensive breakdown of it. These brands and platforms are at constant competition to maximize our attention for their own gain and trying to get all of our engagement because at the end of the day, our attention becomes data that they can then steal, or not steal, but like harvest from us consensually, and then turn a profit for an advertiser. So it's this loop, it's this cycle of them benefiting off of extracting as much of time and attention from us as we will willingly give. This is why social media has started to look more and more like an infinite scroll, having algorithmically curated feeds that are perfect to you, that know exactly what you want to watch and what'll keep you on the platform for longer, as well as auto-playing videos one after another, perhaps bringing you down a rabbit hole on the same concept that they know you're hooked in on, and endless notifications. Like, if you guys don't have notifications turned off. Like, I encourage it. I'm a do not disturb all day kind of girl, but yeah, they're just always trying to ping you, get your attention back, get you to open the app back up again, and hopefully spend another 10 minutes when you meant to only check one thing. And now that we are all wrapped up in the social media world, and for me, as someone who's creating on YouTube, this is something that I have been trying to be super intentional about and like really grappling with in a personal measure. But what's even more fascinating is social media has started to train us to commoditize ourselves. Like, we are commoditizing ourselves. I'm commoditizing Kate Cassidy. We're encouraged to build personal online brands, to like package ourselves up into this easily consumable packaging. We're encouraged to track our likes and shares and followers or subscriber counts as if these are like performance metrics for living a good life or something like that. It just like, we're always have this pressure to perform if you are choosing to show up on the internet in any way. Even think about the language that we use as the everyday just consumer or web browser now. Like, I work in the advertising tech industry, so these words are very common in my corporate professional day-to-day too, but like, we are encouraged to curate our feeds or optimize our profiles. Think about how we best monetize our content. We've literally adopted marketing vocabulary for our day-to-day lives. And that's just such an interesting thing that I've been reflecting on and realizing even more. I think it's especially weird for me, but like working in corporate advertising tech, which is like marketing-esque, now creating on YouTube, which is just an interesting thing, helping out with these different startups that are trying to make a name for themselves in the space, but then also just like being an average person on the internet as well. It's like my entire existence sometimes feels wrapped up in marketing and showing up online. But anyways, I digress. That's just a personal thing that I'm contemplating these days. All of this results in a really strange paradox where while we are more connected than ever in certain ways, we're really all isolated because we are performing our own little lives in certain ways, putting them out online, or like having other people engage with it, but not actually connecting in real life with other people sometimes. We're performing our lives rather than living them, and in the process, people are feeling more and more isolated and lonely. I've made videos on that in the past as well. But in the last few months, I've really gotten a deeper understanding of people who are even building to try and capitalize on this, because as I teed up at the beginning of the video, I did recently move to New York. I love tech, so I always try and like kind of dig down wherever I am and start to deepen my knowledge in specific areas. So I have been like just learning what are people building out here. And I actually even was building with some co-founders in an early stage startup in the last month or so. That is why my video schedule's been a little bit off. That's why I've been a little slow to post. It's very hard to have full-time job and be working on a startup and also be trying to get out high quality YouTube videos and like have good discussions with you guys. So I apologize that my attention's been a little stretched thin these days, but you know, trying to reclaim it wherever I possibly can. And I did get to a point where I have now stepped back from being involved at that startup, but oh my gosh, I just realized it was very eye-opening to me to be having these conversations with people who are founding in the space, and everyone is just trying to get a piece of the pie. Everyone is trying to figure out, okay, the attention economy exists. People are making money and profiting off of human attention. How can I capitalize on that as well? And I just have to give you two examples of the startup that I was working on, and then also a startup that I was like introduced to along the way. And you can, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because to me, both of them just sounded a little bit unethical and a little bit like they were taking some of the joys out of daily life. But let me just dive into it. So one the premise was essentially that, and I won't get into the specifics because obviously people are still working on these and you might catch them in the market someday, and both of them have other competitors that are doing similar things. So I'll keep it kind of like, blinded case study here. But one startup, the premise was essentially turning every single person who goes to a restaurant or any particular venue that wants to market with them, turns every person into essentially a micro nano influencer. So you could be a everyday Joe who has 100 followers on Instagram. You have your close friends and family on there and a couple people that you've collected throughout your life. And you have an Instagram following of, 190, whatever, like a normal amount, turning you into a marketing vehicle for that restaurant or venue by prompting you to post about it on your own personal page. You're not an influencer. You're not, a professional marketer by trade. Instead, you are commoditizing yourself now as an average person, but like being pushed or encouraged to actually be a nano influencer. In return, you get like a free dessert or you get a couple dollars off your meal. So there is that's the value proposition on the consumer side, but just something about the thought of turning every single person who walks into a restaurant or any other sort of event space venue that wants to have this micro marketing, it kind of taints the experience of sitting there at the restaurant, enjoying your meal. Now let's all be little influencers. Let's all do free marketing for the restaurant by taking a picture and posting it on our own personal Instagram pages that we otherwise have not dedicated to marketing in this way, like influencer content marketing. I don't know, something about that just felt a little bit of a strange jump to me. And then also thinking about I'm not on Instagram anymore, but if I were on Instagram, if I just started seeing my friends and family and all the people that I followed, if everyone all of a sudden started becoming little nano marketers and every single person's page was starting to post their food pictures and tag these restaurants and whatever, oh my gosh, as if Instagram couldn't get worse than it already is. As if there aren't already so many ads in the feed and it's really hard to escape it now. Now, encouraging individuals, normal people, to also be a marketing outlet for these companies, and that now the stories feed is destroyed. Now it's there's the normal ads and there's your cousin Jimmy who's also trying to be a nano influencer now. Just something about it was really hard to wrap my head around. And the founder had zero qualms with it. And I know that there are a couple other companies out there that are already doing this to certain capacities. I think most of them you have to have some level of following. Otherwise, the restaurant doesn't really get much out of the experience. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that one? Something about that just sat so strangely for me as a potential consumer of Instagram, now seeing everyone, your sister, your mom, everyone who's on there being encouraged to be nano influencers. Why people who go into influencing, that's now kind of its own profession. That's its own career path that some people take. We don't all need to be doing it. We don't all need to be just blindly agreeing to be marketing vehicles for these restaurants. Something about that just felt so weird. Why do we all have to take our time and attention and market for these other companies? Even for a free dessert or whatever it might be, I don't know, there's just something about that felt very strange to me. Again, it kind of takes you out of this space of just enjoying your meal and the experience with your friends or whoever you might be there with, and instead puts you into this observer view. Okay, now I have to take a picture and do this little transaction, song and dance, whatever. I don't know. Something about it felt a little strange. The second one that I wanted to dig into is actually one that I was working on for a little over a month. I got a little caught up in this one, you guys. Honestly, they're still going to be building it, and I don't want to, just shame this company or anything too much. It just wasn't my project. And I was happy to work on it for a little bit, but definitely wasn't for me. But the premise was essentially monetizing your wait times at various places. So think of public spaces, laundromats, doctor's offices, restaurants, things like that. Imagine you are waiting in these spaces, and rather than sitting there at the laundromat bored and maybe you chit chat with a stranger or whatever, maybe you just like do your own thing on your phone. Now you can actually be served ads. You can choose during this waiting time to watch advertisements to then get like a little bit of a kickback at whatever venue you are at. And something about that idea, that concept, I was working on it. So it's kind of hypocritical of me to say, but something about it, I'm clearly not working on it anymore. It felt misaligned for me. But again, doesn't that just take the joy out of the waiting period? In that moment of waiting, if you're at a laundromat, if you're at the doctor's office, if you're at these places where you kind of inconveniently have to wait sometimes, do you want to spend that time watching an ad? Is that really what you want to be doing? And do we all want to start to see collectively, us as a society, do we want to start to see every second of our day, including the downtime, including the periods where we would otherwise have rest opportunities? Do we want to start seeing ads pumped into that as well? Just as as a consumer, do we want that? And companies are starting to do this already. You see Uber, in the Ubers now, you'll sometimes see those little iPads where you can play games, but really it's all just ads at the end of the day. If you're ever in one of those Ubers and they're trying to get you to use the iPad or whatever that touch screen is, just know it's all about ads. It's literally all these brands that are advertising to you. So Uber's doing it in that way. DoorDash and Uber, they're doing it on their apps now. And there's people, all these companies are trying to inject more and more advertising in every nook and cranny that you could possibly engage with digitally throughout the day. And then even non-digitally, I remember I've sat at restaurants in the past where the placemat has been covered in ads. These are more localized diner sort of places. And it's every second of the day, do we want to be engaging with ads? Again, it just brings me to that future state Blade Runner. There are ads everywhere. I also picture I don't know if this is accurate, but Back to the Future when they're in the future and it's Biff Tannen's casino and everything's just loud and flashy and tacky. It's do we want to start to go that way? I don't know if I do. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. These are actual companies that are being built in addition to the companies that all already exist in the space. Google, Meta, all the big name tech companies. Well, I won't say all, but a lot, Amazon. Many of these massive name tech companies bring in so much revenue through their advertising already. It's at the end of the day, the name of the game is always ads. Maybe I'm just an ad tech girl, so I've got blinders on, but I think that we are living in this attention economy, which, extrapolate it out one level more, it's all an addiction economy, because the way to get more of your attention is to addict you to these various platforms and to try and get as much engagement out of you as possible. But again, I digress. We already have agreed to this value proposition. If the internet is going to be free for us, we are okay with some level of data collection. We're okay with some level of engaging with advertising and marketing. That is just the basic premise of the internet. That's how it was built. We kind of agreed to it without, maybe knowingly, maybe unknowingly. Now, do we really want to start to see that same culture creep into every other aspect of our lives as well? Like, beyond sitting down and watching the TV, beyond listening to your podcast, if you also now have to experience ads when you're sitting down waiting at a restaurant in a space where, again, otherwise you might be conversing with your friends and family that you're out to dinner with, is that really a future that you want to be living in? I don't know. I would say that I probably don't, but again, that's what people are actually building, and that's where the money is. So it's just interesting to me, like being someone who likes tech, but also has these kind of like ethical considerations. I definitely can get a little like intellectually in my head about these sort of things, but it just really all intrigues me so much until the point where like I'm a month into helping build this startup that I don't actually know if I'm aligned with. Like that's what happens for me. It's like because I enjoy this industry, because I enjoy building, because I'm getting to the point where I'm looking for other opportunities outside of my more corporate, very structured advertising tech job. I want to move into a space where I can be more creative and I can build more. That's to come soon. I hope to share more in future videos for you. But I've been trying to see what else is going on just to kind of get inspiration and help out where I can on these like various startups and companies. But then I'll be hearing these startup conversations and like people are telling me about what they're building and I'm like, whoa, you really think that's a good idea? Because I personally really disagree with it and think it's a little unethical. I mean, I made a whole other video on convenience culture. I definitely encourage you to check that one out because that startup idea that I got pitched was truly crazy to me. But yeah, these are the type of conversations that I have on a daily basis here in the New York tech scene. So if we're living in this attention economy where we are being pressured more and more to be commodities ourselves, to commodify our personalities, to build these online brands, to become little marketing vehicles of our own, what can we possibly do to push back on that? Like, I certainly do not have all of the answers, but I do think because this is kind of like what I live, breathe. This is what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I engage with it so much that like I do have some things that help me out and I'd be happy to share. I think it's good to do an audit of how much time you are unconsciously giving away on a daily basis. Like start to just be more cognizant of how many times do I pick up my phone and how much time am I spending on it after each pickup? Like check the screen time app, just become conscious of the ways that you are engaging and like how much time you are giving up. Every time that you open an app, is it one of those apps that just has an endless feed? And then do you know deep down that every time you open one of those endless feed apps, are you going to accidentally spend an hour on it like I used to with like TikTok and Instagram? Once you've started to be more aware of the way that you are engaging and the time that you are giving up for your attention, then start to think about the ways that you can set boundaries and reclaim your time and attention. Two things that I have done recently, like in the last month, these are fresh practices of mine that I've really been enjoying. One, I actually canceled my Amazon account. I canceled my Prime because I just don't use it enough, honestly, and I don't really watch enough Prime Video, but also having a Prime account makes you that much more likely to hop on there and do a one-click checkout and get something to your door the next day or the same day. That's a little bit of an aside. But the second thing that I do is I notoriously am kind of bad about the scroll before bedtime. And I don't even have social media. So you guys, I am scrolling my email inbox. I am scrolling the weather app. I will find other ways to scroll a little bit on my phone before going to bed, but it definitely was worse when I had Instagram, TikTok, my vices back in the day. Now that I've been off of that and I've become aware of my own patterns and habits and the time that I'm giving up to my screen on a daily basis, the biggest hack that I've done recently is I went out and I bought an alarm clock for next to my bed, for my bedside table. I got an alarm clock and I leave my phone charging in the living room. I actually leave it right under my fireplace over there. I moved the charger for this video, but I leave it under my fireplace, and yeah, it's been such a nice thing because it really separates, that's my bedroom, and I'm not on my phone before bed, and I just have to leave it out here. And then when the alarm goes off in the morning, I'm not immediately checking my phone first thing in the morning too. And these are just two little things that I have done that have been really helpful for me recently. The more I became aware of the attention economy, the more I realized I want to live intentionally and deliberately. I want to pay attention and be present, not just give my attention away and pay with my attention, if you know what I mean. I'm super curious to hear your thoughts, especially about these startups, because am I just overthinking it, or are these actually kind of weird and like ethical gray area ideas? I would love to hear your perspective. Thank you so much to Artemis, Emily, and Kareen for being super tier newsletter subscribers. Learn more about that down below, and I appreciate you all so much. We will talk again soon. Bye.